Hey guys, welcome back. Of course, I also have to make a video on the new TCG BANLIST. DK is streaming right now, talking about what this means for Master Duel, and I think there are some implications which we will talk about right now. Of course, we have the newly unlimited section, which is the least interesting one. We have Blackwing Steam the Cloak, which we in Master Duel recently got at 1. It was forbidden before. Here it comes to 3. I do not think this make a big difference because I think Steam the Cloak is fine at 1 in the deck. Maybe you want to play it at 3, but of course this will not make Blackwing a top tier meta deck. And then there are other cards that I quite honestly do not know. I do not know the impact. I'm not quite sure. Spiral Quick Fix. I think the time that Spiral was really meta contender, the times are long gone, and I think you can put the Spiral Quick Fix to 3. I think we also have it at 3 in Meta and Master Duel, and there was a ban list unbanning this guy, but nothing will happen, so I think that's quite alright. Then we have, this is really cool, Skystrike Mecha Modules Multi-Roll. I think we have this at 3 in Master Duel as well, and we will see another Skystriker card going to another limitation section. I like it that they they pick these decks that are like not bad. Skystriker is not a bad deck. In the most recent YCS series, it went like in the 10th or 11th rounds, so it wasn't that bad. I think it's cool that they pick these like worse meta decks, these rogue decks, and they unban stuff so that they can perform better. I think this is always cool. Then we have newly semi-limited, of course, Herald of the Orange Light going to 2. We have recently seen this go to 1 in Master Duel. This is of course, or was of course, because of Telements, though Telements is now not a big threat here in the TCG and possibly will no longer be a big threat in Master Duel. We will see. I think that this ban list now in the TCG tells us that there will be a ban list in Master Duel announced pretty soon. I also checked the dates for the Master Duel ban list, and they always tend to be around from the 20th of the month until the 30th, like the end of the month. So we have 27th now, and I think we will get a Master Duel ban list pretty soon, and I think Telement will get destroyed because the Telement pack leaves the shop, and then we will possibly get Kashtira, which is the next thing we have to talk about. Kashtira Unicorn from 3 to 2. In the OCG, this is what I wanted to talk about. We can see that Unicorn is at 1 and Fenrir is at 1. The OCG also has the Pressured Planet Raidsorf, which is basically Prime Evil Planet Pearl Rhino, but worse, I think, at 1. So in the OCG, this deck has been hit a lot harder, than it was in TCG. I think this will still be a strong deck, and this is really interesting for us in Master Duel, as it begs the question, will we get a pre-hit Kashtira deck if we get it, and will it be pre-hit in the sense of OCG, maybe with a Unicorn or a Fenrir at 1, though I think Fenrir at 1 is a bit lame, because you can play 2 Fenrirs in a lot of other decks searching themselves, so I'm not sure what we will get here. It's more likely that we will get some bans that are more closely related to the OCG than to the TCG, because the OCG and Master Duel are more familiar than is TCG and Master Duel. But yeah, Kashtira going for a Unicorn from 3 to 2, this is obviously the best starter that you can have, but this is quite alright, and we will see a few other hits that concern Kashtira, but I think that Kashtira will still be one of the stronger decks. Lightning Storm from 3 to 2. Not too impactful, I would say. There were a few decks, or are a few players that are side decking 3 Lightning Storm, though I think you can run 2 Lightning Storms. Some people are side decking an Raigeki or a Harpy Feather Duster, so I think that's fine. Runic Fountain goes from 3 to 2, same as we have it in Master Duel, and can we also see it? Oh yeah, OCG has it also at 2. I think that's alright. You can perfectly work with 2 Runic Fountains. The bigger hits that we have like experienced Master Duel are definitely the runic quick play spell cards to 2, so I think this is more of an like chill hit to Runic. This obviously hits Runic Naturia. Then we have Skystrike, as I already talked about, Skystriker, Mobilize, Engage. We have this in OCG at 2 and in Master Duel at 2, so I think TCG looked at it and said, okay, we can put this to 2, so a good day for Skystriker players. All the unbans make the deck more consistent, of course, but I think this is pretty safe. This is a pretty safe option because this will not mean that Skystriker will be the next tier 0 meta threat, so I think it's absolutely okay giving them some of their cards back so they can be better, more consistent, but will not be a big meta threat. Then we have Sprite Starter 2-2. Of course, the TCG has banned the Elf, Sprite Elf, which was a big hit, but Sprite was still a strong deck. We also in the Master Duel have it at 2, OCG has this at 1. I think this is not too big of a hit. The Sprite can still be played as an engine in a lot of decks. We recently saw in the, like it was a few months ago in the YCS series, Sprite winning one of the big tournaments. It was Sprite with the Melfi cards, basically the same version that we have in Master Duel right now, but we are still missing the Sprite Sprint and the Sprite Double Cross, which are really strong cards. I would guess that they will also come in next pack, but I think not everything can come in the next pack, so let's see what ends up being there. Then we have Blaster Dragon Rule of Infernos 2-1. We also had this in Master Duel, no impact here, and this is really, really big. Mathematic Circular, the deck that I play in the TCG, 2-1. I think this is quite big, as Mathematic Circular was the card that was introduced in Power of the Elements that really took all the Mathematic cards that were like super old cards, or not super old, but old cards, and made the deck really strong. Right now in Master Duel we are not seeing a lot of Mathematic. That is because the shufflers are in the game, like the Ishizu shufflers. Those are very bad for Mathematic, and then for a while it was not really played in TCG because of the Bestials that we possibly will get in the next pack. So the time in Master Duel for Mathematic to shine will come in the future again, because this is a strong deck right now in the TCG. I think that this hit is a really hard hit to Mathematic. This is the core card, the best card in the game. Obviously, there's also the Diameter. So for killing your opponent, you either need your Circular or your Diameter plus 1 monster in the grave. But when going first, Circular is definitely the most important card. Of course, you can still search it via the Small World or via the Cyanide Mining, but yeah. Psyframe, Gear Gamma, we have it at 2, OCG it is at 1, and in TCG it is at 1. It's interesting because everyone is playing it right now, and I think the people will like still play this in the future. I myself do not like this card. Like I find this card really strange. Of course, the optimal scenario is you are playing your turn and then your opponent plays something and you can gamma the thing, and then you have your gamma and your driver and you can make a Baron for free, for example. This is of course pretty great. Or no, you cannot make a Baron, right? But you can make the Axel Cinco Stardust Dragon and then make a Baron. So you can make a Baron at the end of the line. This is obviously the dream and super strong, but I also have this card in which deck am I playing this right on Master Duel? In the Dragon Link deck. I find it's such a brick card. It's super bricky, it's bad in the Tier Elements meta because it destroys cards via card effects, so the Tier Elements activate in graveyard and stuff. I'm not a big fan of Gamma, and once you play a card, a monster on the field, this thing is just a dead thing in your hand and possibly will be dead for the rest of the game. I do not... it's not my card. But yeah, I think it's pretty strong. Everyone thinks it's strong, so I think my take is wrong here. So they are putting Danglong from 0 to 1. I'm not quite sure why this was at 0. I have not played in the time when Danglong was played, so I cannot say much to this. Kashtira Ariza from 3 to 1 in the OCG is not... anything on the card. Kashtira Rise Out 3 to 1. I think this makes a difference. Obviously makes the deck weaker. And now there is the possibility, if you play against another Kashtira deck, your opponent can play his Unicorn if they get Unicorn, because we will see another card that will be banned for Kashtira. But the Unicorn can then rip a card out of the extra deck. So if you have your Unicorn first, then you can like out your opponent's Kashtira Rise Out, because they only can play one, and this is of course pretty hard. I do not think think that we will get this thing at 1 in Master Duel, because this has an animation, this will be an ultra rare, and I think they want to milk this cow, which is Kashtira Eraser. But interesting that this goes to 1. I think Kashtira is still pretty strong. I think the amount of games in which you need to summon 2 or more of these guys is rare. But obviously can happen sometime. This is obviously a hit, but I think the deck is still fine. Then we have, and this is really interesting, this and another card on the list that we will see at the newly forbidden section is really interesting, because I am not quite sure, because I'm not that long back in the game, but I think this happened rarely. This is a new deck type, purely. If you have not seen it, I will make a video on it in the future, and this is really new. This just recently came in the meta, or has hit the meta and is now a part of the meta, and they are hitting it right now. It's a super new deck. They're hitting it. They're hitting the Delicious Memory to 1. This is the card that makes all the purely cats more robust, which gains them 300 attack and defense for each material attached to the purely XYZs, and normally they have a lot of materials. So this is of course this is a really strong hit for the deck, though I think this will still be a strong deck and also will get some really amazing support in the future. So I think the deck is fine and will benefit from other decks like Kashtira being weaker. Naturia Sacred Tree from 3 to 1, I think we will not see anything like this in Master Duel. I think the deck is fine in Master Duel. We have already seen the hits to the Runic engine in Master Duel. This is of course because of Runic Naturia, which also was very prevalent in the last YCS series back in February or March. So I'm actually not quite sure why they are hitting this right now, because Naturia Runic is not really played at the moment, but I guess it's fine, and this is a big hit for the Naturia Runic deck, I would say, because you can like pretty consistently send this thing with your Camellia, because you can always resummon your Camellia. You may know this from Master Duel already. So this is a big hit. And now we come to the really interesting stuff, the newly forbidden section. Cyberstein to 0. So do I think that this will go to 0 in Master Duel? I do not think so. OCG has it at 1. I think it's good that this thing is at 0. I don't think that this is a really good card for the game. It's just like, oh, I've drawn Cyberstein, I play it, normal summon, pay 5,000 and then make a Naturia Exterior or some other really strong card. It's just a lame card. Get rid of it. I'm all for it. So I like this change. For sure. And this is the other like really crazy thing. I mean, this is an old card. This is not a new card, but Super Heavy Samurai has received a lot of new support, and they are putting this to 0. This is a really core card, Link 1, a really important card for the deck, and I'm not quite sure why they are doing it. They could have put this to 1. Yeah, maybe you need to put it at 0, because you only need 1 to establish your first combo board. So this is really crazy, because the deck just recently rose to power, and I think it's not super dominant. It's one of the strongest decks, of course, but it's not like dominating the meta game. So I think this was a bit unnecessary. It's the same crazy as is purely Delicious Memory. It's just a bit crazy that they already hitting this. And then we have the Kashtira hit number 89, Diabolism Mind Hacker. Of course, everyone wanted this to go to 0, and this card is the card that we maybe could get a hit with in Master Duel, maybe, but maybe not, because this card basically forces you to craft multiples of your extra deck, important extra deck monsters, and a lot of extra deck monsters are ultra rare. So from a like gem spending perspective, it would make sense to keep this in the deck. But of course, this disallows Kashtira from effectively zone locking your opponent, because I mean they still can zone lock, of course, but now it's like harder, and the bigger zone locks are not possible anymore. Of course, there is still the Shangri era, so this still will work, but it's way harder now. But this was to be expected, I would say. Appointer of the Red Lotus is now forbidden. Sure, this is a really strong card. If you can play it in your side deck, I think for us in Master Duel, it's not that important, but yeah, sure, I think it's really strong if you are going first and can set this card and then basically like see the hand of your opponent and rip the card out of the hand that will answer your board. This is really strong. and now it is forbidden. OCG, interestingly, has this at free, so I think it's so funny that these, right now, 3 formats are playing the game as differently as they are. And then branded expulsion to 0, I think this is cool, this is fine, because this was Gimmick Puppet Lock for those of you in Master Duel. I mean, we also have this card. You just summon this guy to your opponent's field and the opponent cannot special summon for the turn. It's super lame. Yeah. So I'm happy that this goes, but I also think this is not that impactful for Branded. I think Branded, this is a good list for Branded. I think they are not losing like really important stuff. They obviously have their, I'm not quite sure how this guy is called. Is it like, it's Albion, right? It's also an Albion. Yeah, they have the new Albion, the Sanctifier Dragon, which also can do the Gimmick Puppet lock if they want to. But I also think that Bandit does not need the Gimmick Puppet lock. So yeah, I think this is really cool. This is just banning a real, like a real annoying, a real bad mechanic for the game. Same thing as with Diabolism. Same thing as with Cyberstein. I think I like the ban list. I think they are hitting good things. There are a few decks that did not get hit. I would say Branded was not really hit. Branded is a winner of this ban list, I would say. Labyrinth is definitely a winner because Labyrinth is already on the up, is already stronger due to the Chaos Angel stuff, and they are now playing the pure Labyrinth version, which is really strong. Nothing was hit here in terms of Labyrinth. There could have been a hit to a Skill Drain or something, but there wasn't. So I think Labyrinth is a big winner because Labyrinth is one of the top decks that has nothing hit here. I think a big loser is Mathematic. Kashtira also will get weaker, and then of course we have the new big monster decks that were just like eclipsing in Purely, and Super Heavy Samurai, especially Super Heavy Samurai, I think is hit quite hard. We will see how they, I think they will manage. I think they will manage to find a new combo line, which will maybe be a bit more inconsistent or weaker. I think the deck is fine, but yeah, it's a crazy ban list, that's for sure. A lot of things were hit or changed, but super interesting. And yeah, I hope you found this interesting as well. And we will see each other tomorrow evening for another cool video I have for you. As always, like the video if you like this stuff, if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel. This helps me out a lot. And yeah, I wish you guys a good evening, and we will see each other tomorrow at 6 o'clock.